Erev Tov, we're in the Mesillas Yesharim in the middle of the Preface. And the Preface is a campaign. After he humbly introduces that, there's no Chidushim over here, but his whole preface is to say that the subject of Yirah Shamayim is a very deep subject. It's a wisdom, it takes a Chachma and Hasbonenus, and it's not intended for the multitudes. That means, of course, the multitudes also have to have Yirah Shamayim and Navas Hashem, but they can't go very far with it. They're not expected to go too far. And the fact that the wise people don't see wisdom in it, so they don't study it, so it remains like an uncovered book, sealed book. Paraphrasing a pasuk, that there's a letter that the one who knows how to read, the literate person, doesn't read it because it's sealed, and the illiterate person that opens it, he doesn't know how to read it. So he says that's a mashal for this subject of Yirah Shamayim, that people who are studying it are not wise enough to understand what's being said, and people that are wise enough to understand, they would understand what's being said, but they don't study it because they think that it's simple, so they leave it as a sealed book. And he says that every person does have every Adam Yashar, every upright person has the basic premises of Yirah Shamayim that would continue to be Chassidus, but if you don't develop it, you won't understand it. You won't realize that that's a chelik of Chassidus. So I'm not sure where we're up to exactly, but we'll start from Re'eh. It should be the beginning of a paragraph. It's about one page in. Everybody has a different book over here, so if somebody can read out some pages over here. By me, it's page Yudalid. I don't know what Re'eh. You have that's beginning, Re'eh. Re'eh. Okay, it's the middle of a paragraph here. Re'eh. Page 4. Okay. Okay. Re'eh. Kein divrei Chassidus v'nyani ha'yira v'ha'ava v'taras ha'lev dvarim ha'mutbon b'adam. See means study, realize that the issues of Chassidus, piety, and Yirah Shamayim, and Ava, fear of Hashem, love of Hashem, and purity of heart, they're not things that are natural in a person, that he doesn't have to have mediums in order to acquire it. He wants to point out that there's a whole system of reasoning that has to be figured out over here. It isn't something that's natural to a person, but it's something that has to have mediums. Is it something which does not need mediums to acquire? It's just going to be natural as a person finds his natural movements like sleep and awakening, hunger and satisfaction, and every other normal tenuah. Is that something that Yirah Shamayim, is it something that's natural? It's not so. That a person doesn't naturally have all of these attributes. Surely they have mediums and strategies how to acquire them. This whole sefer is going to be structured on every subject he's going to talk about. He's going to talk about what it is, and what are its parts, how to acquire it, and how to avoid its pitfalls. So there's a whole system of logic that has to be figured out. So he says here that all of these issues are necessary to have mediums and strategies in order to acquire them. And also there are impediments. There are also what you call pitfalls, mafsidim, things that would inhibit, detract, oppose, and they are distancing it from man. And also there are solutions. There are solutions for these impediments. That there are problems, there are pitfalls, and also there are ways to avoid the pitfalls. We gave a mashal the other time, I'm not sure if it was recently, that when a person learns how to make money, that doesn't mean that he has the money. Even after he learns how to make money and he goes ahead and does it, he could lose it because of fire, theft, loss, bad investments, all kinds of ways that people don't keep their money. So it's necessary. There's also wasting. People waste their money. So there are necessary wisdoms on how to maintain. It's not enough just to acquire it. You also have to maintain it because there are detractors, inhibitors. So too in these issues, even if a person knows the way how to acquire it, he also has to make sure that he doesn't lose it. And he makes a very big issue of that. If a person doesn't take care of that, it's like he has a hole in his pocket. He's earning money the whole time. That's Tzvar the pasuk calls it. Like he's putting it into a pouch that has a hole in it. So he's working and earning and making a lot of effort to get the money, but he puts it into a pouch that has a hole in it. So what did he do? So if a person is going to be working on all these issues, but he has mafsidim, there are things that he didn't take care of. There are detractors that are going to constantly being opposing him and contra chasidus, contra piety. If so, how is it possible that a person shouldn't spend some time on this study? That he should know what they are. Amitas advar means what things really are, the true essence of these issues, not just to take it superficially. Later on in the preface, he's going to say that people who don't study, they're going to have it outside adimyon, v'asvar hakozev. So they're just going to be imagining what they think it is. It's going to be some false impression that he has about what these subjects are, and he doesn't really know what they really are. And also how to acquire it and how to maintain it. How to maintain it would mean that even if he knows how to acquire it, he shouldn't lose it. So there's a wisdom over here. Where is this wisdom going to come into the heart of man if he doesn't seek it? It's a wisdom that has to be sought, and exertion has to be applied. And since each wise man knows the necessity that his avodas Hashem should be pure and clean, clear, it should be pure from any ulterior motives. Without these ingredients of being pure, then it's not favored by Hashem, but it's despised and abominated. That Hashem desires, he seeks every heart, and he understands all of the thoughts. That Hashem, besides the actions, that Hashem is seeing everybody's actions, he also knows the thoughts that are going into it, the motivations. And since Hashem sees that, so if it's not pure, that means he's doing it for a different reason, so it's not accepted by Hashem. Here it says that it's scorned and despised. Hashem doesn't want such kind of a service. He's not really serving Hashem, he's serving himself. He's bowing down to people instead of bowing down to Hashem. What are we going to answer on the day of rebuke when Hashem is going to rebuke us if we have been lax in this study and have left the thing which is so incumbent upon us, which is the main thing that Hashem asks of us? He's paraphrasing a pasuk over here in Parsha Sekev. Moshe Rabbeinu says, "What does Hashem ask of you?" And he's going to bring it down soon. This pasuk that Kiyam liyiras Hashem alekecha l'leches b'chol tirochav lavo. So there's going to be over there 5 things. The 5th one is Shmiras Kol HaMitzvahs, to observe the mitzvahs, which everybody understands that that's the basic for doing Hashem's will. But he says Hashem asks of you for other things. And how could a person ignore all those 4 issues of love of Hashem, fear of Hashem, going in his ways, which he's going to say means Tikkun HaMidos, how a person perfects his character, and purity of motivation. Those are 4 more ingredients that if a person doesn't study it, he doesn't have it. How could a possible that we should exert our minds with investigations of things that we're not obligated in, and different intricacies that's not going to produce any fruit, any totzah, any result, and dinim that don't apply to us, and that which we are chayiv to our Creator very much, that we're going to leave to habit and for doing things by rote. So he's making a complaint that people study things that might be considered even Torah, they are Torah, but in the Seder Adifiyut, in a ladder of preferences, a person has to have what is in the order of preference. If a person has, let's say, 2 Masechtas, one is about Hilchas Brachos, let's say. Before we get into Yiras Shamayim, just in Halachas alone, there's Hilchas Brachos, Mesechas Brachos, Mesechas Shabbos, and then there's going to be Mesechas Yevamis. Mesechas Yevamis means if somebody dies without children, so his wife should marry the brother of the deceased. If not, there should be Chalitza. And a bulk of the Masechta has many cases of relatives. Like it's a standard scenario over there if you have 2 brothers that marry 2 sisters, 4 brothers that marry 2 sisters, and the other 2 married independent women. And all of the intricacies, very intricate, when the complications, because
father with more than one wife,
it could be those kind of different cases, very complicated cases. Now, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen every day, and doesn't happen, especially many of the complicated cases don't happen. And if the person is not in the situation where it's happening to him, it means it's going to a Rav of some sort, whoever is in charge of it. It's not in the realm of his halacha l'maisa. It's not going to come to practice by him. And no one's going to ask him either. It's not going to. So it doesn't mean that it's not Torah. But if he has a choice of learning Maseches Brachas, learning Maseches Yevamis, and he doesn't know Maseches Brachas, so Brachas happens to do every day. It has to do with Kriya Shema twice a day. It has to do with Tefillah. It has to do with Birchas Hanenin, that he has 100 Brachas during the day. And he doesn't know that. But he's going to study Torah that has to do with Yevamis or Ben Sorah or Morah, the wayward son, which the Gemara says is almost impossible to be. Eglai Rufa, right? So there are some things, of course it's Torah, and if a person learns things that do relate to him, he surely has a mitzvah to learn that also. Even the knowledge of the Torah, even if it doesn't come to practice, it's also Torah, and Hashem wants you to know it. But there's a Seder Adifut.
And you can't paskin without knowing those things also.
Many subjects, they interact, and you have to know those subjects also. So it's the for a person who's advanced, that he should know those things also. But that a person is going to learn Yevamis and not learn Brachos, L'chora, is extremely out of proportion. That will be even within halacha themselves. Even within halacha, a person has to first get his act together. What happens to him every day? So he's on the same vein. He's saying, how is it possible that a person is going to dedicate his learning time to studies that don't bring him relative halachas, things that have to do with that relate to him, and is going to study things that don't have to do with him? So these subjects of love of Hashem, fear of Hashem, purity of motivation, good character. This is every whole day. This is a person not only brachas. This is continuously that a person is supposed to be living with these four issues. So how could it be that a person doesn't study them? So he's not saying. Sometimes people read the Mesillas Yesharim over here and they say that he's against learning any subject that doesn't have to do with actual practice. That it comes to a person. That's not what he says. He's just saying that in the Seder Adifut. How could it be that this you're studying and this you're not? It has to be some kind of a balance of where your effort is going. So if a person has study time, it surely should go first to the things that have to do with these subjects. He goes further. If now you can have a list of a few of the attributes he's talking about. Fear of Hashem, love of Hashem, goes on with a few more. And he's going to say that he's pointing out there are so many nuances and issues that have to be analyzed, that it wouldn't be possible to understand it if it's not analyzed. So the first thing he says is that if a person doesn't know what is the true fear of Hashem, the pasuk says to fear Hashem, that can be understood on different levels. What is fear of Hashem? So if a person doesn't study what is the true fear and what are its anafim, the word anafim is a branch, means it has offshoots. There's the main issue, and then it has the anafim, the branches that branch out of it. So how are we going to acquire it, and how are we going to escape from the worldly vanity that makes us forget? We're going to forget it even if we know it already. It means this sentence says a lot. It's a short sentence, but it says a lot right here. Sometimes people read the sentence superficially and as if it's a list of questions. If a person doesn't study, how is he going to know what is the true fear? What are its branches? How do we acquire it? How are we going to escape from the worldly vanity which makes us forget? But it doesn't say that. The sentence structure is much different. The sentence structure says, if we don't study what it is and what are its branches, how are we going to acquire it, and how are we going to escape from those things that make us forget? It means he's not saying a list of 4 questions. He's saying if you don't have these 2, how are you going to do the other those two? Just to build the sentence. If we don't look and study what is the true fear and what are its branches, then how are we going to acquire it, and how are we going to escape from its mafsidim? So he says here that
it's a chiyuv to learn it.
But more than that, it's impossible to acquire it without knowing what it is.
You have to
know.
So it's a chiyuv to learn it.
You have to know what. Yeah, he's surely coming to. It's the middle of the campaign. The whole paragraph they have to learn it. But now he's saying another point. Before
is there a level of adifut bein?
He said level of adifut before that other studies. This goes first. Now he's saying another point. How do you think? How in the world do you think he could acquire it if you don't even know what it is? It's like someone's going hunting. He doesn't know what he's hunting for. He's surely not going to find it. The first thing is you have to know what you're looking for. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. You're going fishing. You have to know what kind of bait to put. If you don't want to know what kind of fish to get, I don't know fishing, but I imagine that's how it would be a good mashal. So here he says, if you don't know what fear of Hashem is, how are you going to acquire it? If you don't know what it is, how could you acquire it? You don't even know what it is. Chafetz Chaim said a similar thing, that a person can't be careful with Lashon Hara if he doesn't know what Lashon Hara is. Even if he's going to learn Musar, but he doesn't know what Lashon Hara is, so it's not going to help him all the Musar. He's going to learn Musar, and then when it comes to question, he's going to say, this is a mitzvah to say. This is not only a very of Lashon Hara, it's a mitzvah to say it. So, in a very basic level, if a person doesn't know what fear of Hashem is, how is he going to acquire it? You have to first know what it is. So there's one study to know what it is. Not only that, he says a bigger chiddush. You have to know its anafim. You have to know its branches. If you don't know it and its branches, how are you going to know how to acquire it? This is a point of chiddush that is going to be appreciated more as we go on into the Sefer. Let's say by the subject of Yirah Shamayim. He gets into it at depth in Perek and Chasidus over there. I think Perek Yud Tes over there. He talks at length about Avos Hashem, Yirah Hashem. That's where he really opens up the subject. So he says that Yirah, fear of Hashem, has three offshoots. It means if a person has Yirah Shamayim, it's going to cause three things. Three results are going to come out of that. One is going to be the attitude that he has before Hashem is going to be Boshes, Hachna, and Kavod. Boshes says that he's going to feel embarrassed, humiliated when he's standing before Hashem, and humble, humility, and kavod. He's going to show honor and respect to all the things that have to do with Hashem, the mitzvahs, the Torah, Tamid Chachamim, whatever it might be, Beis HaKnesses. If a person has fear of Hashem, that's going to be an offshoot. By Avos Hashem, by love of Hashem, he says also it has three offshoots. He says that there's simcha and dveikus and kina, that a person who loves Hashem, so when he's going to do some service of Hashem, he's going to do it with love. He's going to do it with happiness, And he's going to also be davek. There's an issue about enthusiasm, that a person gets enthusiastic about something, his mind engrossed. He's taken over by it, and he doesn't even realize other things happening around him. That's a level of enthusiasm that happens when a person loves. And there's a point over there about kina, that a person is, I think the word we got over there was zealous. When he sees somebody that is disrespectful to Hashem, to somebody that he loves, so he cannot tolerate it. Those are all offshoots. So we would think, I think on a very basic level, I would have thought that if a person studies the issue, let's say he studies what Yirah Shamayim is and he acquires it, so all of these offshoots will come automatically. He doesn't have to study them per se. He doesn't have to look at each one. There's an offshoot of Yirah, which is Achna, and of Boshes, and of Kavod, or Bayava. He just studies Avos Hashem, and if he gets the point, then all the offshoots will come automatically. He talks about humility, by the issue about Anava. He talks about that the person who has true humility is going to forego insult. If there's going to be insulted, he'll be able to tolerate it, or he's not going to want to have a position of authority if not necessary. If there's somebody better that could do it, he'd rather somebody else should do it. So we would say all these offshoots are memela. They'd be automatic. If a person has the root, then automatically the offshoots will also happen. But he seems to be saying right here in these two words that it isn't so. If a person doesn't know what Yirah is and what are its offshoots, how are we going to acquire it? It means you're not able to acquire it unless you also know the offshoots. You have to know the whole picture. You have to also work on the Totzaot. It isn't that I just got the issue and everything else is going to fall into place by itself. You have to pay attention and focus even on the Totzaot. A person who has Avos Hashem, you find that many times, I think, even in a marriage or bringing up a family, that a person, he has the shorish, and he thinks everything's going to fall into place by itself. If he loves his wife, so that everything's going to fall into place by itself. It's not always true. He has to realize that a person who loves, that means that it has hashlachot, it has ramifications. If you love, then it means that as a result of that, it should be A, B, and C. If you love your children, you have responsibility for your children. So then, it's not enough just to say I have responsibility. I feel responsibility. That what do you do when your kid is not doing well at homework? Are you supposed to find out from the teachers if they're doing well? Are you supposed to see what their friends are? Are you supposed to see if they're how they're spending their free time? So a person might not realize that. He doesn't realize that there are ramifications to his shorish. He has a certain root, and he doesn't realize that if he doesn't analyze what that includes, he won't notice it by himself. Like I said before, he might not notice it. So here he says, in these two words, he just threw in that if a person doesn't also study the ramifications of the shoresh, of the root, he won't acquire it. It doesn't come automatic. Big yisod. As we go on in the Sefer, we're always going to see that it talks about the anafim. So he's not just telling us, by the way, this is going to happen on its own. He's saying, realize that this is supposed to come out of the shoresh, and therefore make it happen. You have to work on the anafim also. It might be, someone told me, I don't know if this is true by the actual mashal of the root and the branches. Anybody in agriculture over here? I don't know. That is necessary that a person, is it enough to take care of the root? Or it also has to be some tipul that's taking care of the branches also. Anything in the
without
agriculture?
proper sunlight on the branches, the roots will die.
Even though you'll say that the root,
It needs sunlight. You have to make sure that it doesn't get infested with
they have mafsidim and things like that.
a piece that dries off. You have to cut it off so that it doesn't get infected.
So there's all kinds of
For the tree
people
to
in.
grow in the right direction, you need to prune it in order to get it.
So in the mashal alone is a mashal. Even if you have a shorish and anafim, it's not enough just to be metapel tipul shorish. It's not enough just to do taking care of the shorish. Everything's gonna work out, fall into place. Not necessarily. There's also tipul on the anafim also. There's tipul shorish, there's tipul anafim. So also in our work on ourselves, on our midos, on the issues of Yerushalayim and Avos Hashem, it's not enough just to get to the root. And even if you're going to really get the true Yira Amitis, that he means to say Yira, as we'll see later on, that he says that the true fear of Hashem is not fear of sin, fear of punishment, which also is a truth, that there's punishment, and therefore a person would have fear of punishment. But it's not enough. That's not the main point. The main point is that he realizes Hashem's infinite exaltedness, and then he relates to Hashem in such a way that he realizes how low he is and how exalted Hashem is, and that's the way he stands before Hashem. Even if he has that, it's not going to automatically bring on all of the ramifications. He has to study what ramifications come out of that and also focus on them. I thought it was a very, thrown in as a side point, but it's a very deep episode that has a lot of work ahead of us. That it's not enough just to get to the shorish, you also have to realize what anafim are included also. Again, the word anafim means branches. So just to read the sentence again, if we don't look and study what is the true fear and what are its branches, how are we going to acquire it and how are we going to escape from the worldly vanity which makes us forget? It means that there's a materialism in the world that if you leave yourself neutral, you're going to go down. You're not going to have Yerushalayim naturally in this world. This world is in place. It's made that way. Dafka, Hashem made the world in a way that it's not a Gan Eden. It's not a place of spirituality. It's a place of a lot of materialism. And those are the marchikim that he's going to say that these are the worldly, materialistic state that we're living in, that if we just leave things as is, we're going to drown in it. We have to work against the state of materialism.
If you give an example of escalator going down, you have to
go up. Because materialism is going to bring you down. So that's the Hevel HaOlami. That's the worldly vanity. There's a lot of vanity. Later on, he's going to call it Chomrius, Gufanius, and different words like that. That person has to realize that he's drowning unless he fights against it. It's going to be forgotten. Even if we know how responsible we are to do it, it's still going to be forgotten. That's the issue about Yira. And Ava Kamoke, and also love of Hashem. If we're not going to fix it in our heart through all of the mediums that bring this, how are we going to have it? It means we know what love is an emotion, which later on is going to define exactly what love is. And a person is supposed to love Hashem. How is it going to get it fixed in our heart? That we should be actually loving Hashem if we don't bring it in. We don't have the mediums to bring in this love of Hashem. How are we going to find dvekus? Dvekus is a word that has a few meanings. And the issue we're talking about right now is that a person is, as we said before, engrossed, enthusiastic. He's enthusiastic about service of Hashem. How are we going to become enthusiastic about Hashem and His Torah if we don't turn to His greatness and His exaltedness, which will bear in our hearts, it'll result in our hearts this dvekus. A person who, it's also an offshoot of Ava, he says later on, that a person loves Hashem, so that's going to have a result of an offshoot of dvekus, enthusiasm. But he says you only get that when you study Hashem's greatness and all the things that bring you to love Hashem, and that'll cause your enthusiasm. But it doesn't come by itself. You have to bring it in. He says two things, by the way. He says with Hashem and with His Torah. There's a big issue about Avos HaTorah that sometimes is a misconception about what Avos HaTorah means. In some places it's very encouraged that the love of Torah means that you enjoy the mental exercises of understanding Torah. It's a lot of intricacies and wisdom, and in the Gemara there's a lot of deep, beautiful logic that is very enjoyable. And the students, high school age, they're taught to develop a love for the mental exercises, that they should become smart. And it's true, it's very enjoyable. But that's not Avos HaTorah. There's Torah that has the depth of the mental acrobatic sometimes, that a person has to do a lot of pilpul in order to understand, then it's very deep, and there's much enjoyment, mental enjoyment from understanding something. That's true. Figuring it out, a big problem. But that's not Avos Torah. And they quote certain form that seem to say so, but they don't. They don't say that that's what Avos Torah is. Avos Torah is that if a person loves Hashem, he loves his Torah, because it's Hashem's word. The more that you love Hashem, the more you love the Torah, even if it's a plain pasuk that doesn't have any, we don't have anything to think about, even though there truly is depth in the Torah. But even if you're learning the Torah on a simple level, if you love Hashem, you love the Torah. There's a beautiful thing that I heard from the Beis Medrash of the Gra. I don't know if he had a yeshiva, but there was a Beis Medrash, they called the Klois. The Klois. Like I guess that was what does the Klois in Yiddish mean? I guess the group, there was the gang, whatever, the Chabura. So the Gra's Chabura. So if someone wanted to join, so what were the requirements in order to join the Chabura? So I would have thought in the Grove they'd have to be very, very smart. I thought you'd have to I would think so. So the entrance exam was very different. The entrance exam was that the Rabbi came out, he told you a page of Gemara, he told you which page of Gemara to study, and study it until you know it well. And then he'd come back after an hour and tell him to study it again. And after another hour, study it again. Keep on studying it. The same page. No quizzes, no tests, no questions.
No, he's
just keep on.
into the yeshiva and he keeps studying the page.
The question is how long he can tolerate learning the same page. Or he can't take it anymore. Not because it was deep and he was good. It could have been the good. For that matter, they could have given him a page of Tanakh also, a Mishnah, and say study it again and again and again. As if he could study it again and again, that means that he loves the Torah. If he says, that's it, Ad Khan, that means his level of love of Torah is limited. As long surely a person has to go further because you have to learn the rest of it also. But if there's no reason to go further, he'd be happy to learn it again because this is Hashem's Torah. The sweetness of Torah is that this is Hashem's Torah. If it's complicated, if it's difficult, if it's easy, doesn't make a difference. This is Hashem's Torah. That's enjoyable. If it be the same thing, the same logic, sometimes you have in Gemaras all kinds of me'at and agriculture, different subjects come in. If it would be just learning the agriculture, so he would not be interested. Now that it's Torah, now he's enthusiastic because this is Torah. If it would be geometry, it wouldn't. If it's just, it depends what it's for. What is the geometry doing for you? If it's helping you for Torah, so then he's excited. If it's not, so then, okay, I got to do it. Whatever reason he has to do it. But the love of Torah is the love of Hashem. There are those forms that say that, I just want to say what people make a mistake. People say, quote a certain sefer, is it Avnei Nezer? I think it's the Avnei Nezer in Eglei Tal. The same author, he wrote Eglei Tal, and in the Hakdama he wrote that people think that it takes away from the schar of learning Torah when it's enjoyable. As if to say, Dafka, don't do it in an enjoyable way. So he said, no, that's wrong. He's supposed to. And I have a very nice mashal that I don't think he says the mashal. I think that maybe he brings some reference to the mashal that the Gemara says that by Pesach, you're not supposed to eat matzah before Pesach. The Allah is only the same day. People have a minhag even earlier. Some people from Rosh Chodesh, some people even more. They don't eat matzah. Why? You should eat it b'tei avon. You should have an appetite for the matzah. You shouldn't eat it such a long time. Now you're waiting the whole day of Pesach to eat the matzah. So is Chazal saying that the kavanah of matzah is supposed to be to enjoy it? They're not saying the kavanah of matzah is to enjoy it. The kavanah of matzah is because that's a mitzvah of Hashem. But you want to do the mitzvah with the tei It's a hiddur mitzvah to do it, that you enjoy the food. That's only a hiddur mitzvah that you're enjoying it. So he's saying that don't think that if you enjoy the matzah, you're doing less lishma. It doesn't take away from the lishma. By Torah also, a person's going to think that if I enjoy the Torah, so it takes away from my schar. No, you're learning Torah b'tei avon. That's fine. That's good. But not that he's saying that the tachlis of the Torah, the purpose you're learning it is for the tei avon. That they never he never said such a thing. If you look in the source, he never said such a thing. So I think that it's a misquote. When people say in the name of the sefer that he's dafka supposed to learn for the enjoy, that's the lishma, to learn it for the gishmak. That's the Yiddish word they use for enjoyment, to learn with a geshmak. That's not the purpose of learning. The purpose of learning is because it's Hashem's Torah, and the enjoyment of Torah is because it's Hashem's Torah. And if you enjoy the geshmak of the svara, that it was a good reasoning, a good kasha, a good teretz, that's wonderful. It's like eating matzah b'tei avon. You have an appetite, but that's not the kavana. That's not the reason that you're learning the Torah. That's not supposed to be the motivation. Motivation is to learn Hashem's Torah, and the love of Torah is because you love Hashem. So if a person, here he says, if a person doesn't turn to Hashem's greatness, how is he going to love the Torah? You might say, I mean, according to those who held that the love of Torah is because you enjoy the Sfarah, has nothing to do with loving Hashem. Here he says that if you don't turn to Hashem's greatness, and Roman was said, then where are you going to get the love of Torah from?
That's how they used to smoke.
And they just enjoyed the mental love together. There's great enjoyment in the wisdom of Torah, but that's not the point of Avos Torah. Avos Torah is because you love Hashem. And here he says that if you don't love Hashem, how are you going to get it? How are you going to purify our thoughts? This is about the point of motivation. The terminology sometimes is misunderstood by people. I saw some Mefarshim on the Mesillas Yesharim, they misunderstood him because they didn't read further on in the book. The word of Taras HaMachshava over here means purity of motivation. It doesn't mean other kinds of thoughts. It doesn't talk about impure thoughts. It's talking about impure as far as motivation. How are we going to purify our thoughts if we don't cleanse it from all of the blemishes that natural physicality puts into it? It means that a person, because he's physical and materialistic, so he has all kinds of inclinations about honor and money, whatever it might be, and he has ulterior motivations. When he's doing mitzvahs, he has ulterior motivations. How is he going to cleanse out the ulterior motivations if he doesn't cleanse it? He has to do a cleansing on his motivations in order to make sure that he's doing it for the right motivations. The sentence could be very misunderstood if you don't have background of the Sefer's terminology. How can we purify our motivation if we don't cleanse it out of all of the materialistic blemishes that naturally get in? Midas Kulam, and all of the different character traits. He's giving you a whole list over here of the Pasuk of Hashem Elokecha Shol Meiman, all of the mitzvahs halavavos that he calls it, the mitzvahs that have to do with the heart, Ava, Yira, Midos, and purity of motivation. Hamidas Kulam, Atzrichas Kolkach Tikin Vayshara. All of the character traits that need so much rectification and straightening. Who's going to straighten it out? Who's going to rectify it if you don't pay attention to it and scrutinize them very much? You have to scrutinize our midos. You have to learn the midah over there. It's also the same subject. He doesn't say it over here, but I think that a person would have to also know what the midos are. Half the job is to figure out what the midah is. You talk about anger, you talk about jealousy, you talk about arrogance. What else? Taiva, yeah. If a person doesn't study what it is and identify it and make its parameters to define what it is, it's very hard to work on. Once you know what it is, half the job is done already. Because a lot of the bad midos are just big balloons, like look like a monster, and who knows what this thing is. It's very hard to fight. But really, it's just hot air. And if you realize how to really pull out the button, the whole thing deflates. And many of people's bad midos is only because they have a misunderstanding of what the midah is all about and what they're all about. And if you realize what it is, what you are, what the world is, then once you get more truthful about everything, you get more understanding and being honest with oneself and not being impressed by superficial first impressions. So it's very much easier to work on midos. He doesn't say that right here. Up here he just says that who's going to rectify it if you don't pay attention to it. I'm just pointing out that I think that he himself is going to say that later on in the Sefer he gives a few drills on how to work on what the midos are, to figure out what the midah is. And that's one of the ways of rectifying midas. And also, a person has to, afterwards, after he knows it, I'm not saying it's the only thing he has to do, but most of the job is done once he understands himself. Let's give an example. We spoke about it. If a person comes to the realization that getting angry is letting go of the steering wheel, it'll take time to figure that out. But let's say a person figures it out, that getting angry is letting go of a steering wheel. So he's on the highway, and he's very upset at what's happening around him. He cut him off, and he's late for a business meeting, and the plane's going to get off without him, and all kind. But letting go of the steering wheel, that he knows you don't do. Like that's not going to get it. Not going to help him, and it's just suicide. What's he going to do? Let go of the wheel. And people who realize they're getting angry, that's what they're really doing. They're thinking irrationally. The next day they're going to have a lot of regret that they said or did what they did because they weren't in control. So that means losing control. Like we say, he lost it. That's how we say that. He lost it. He lost himself. That means that getting angry means that a person is not doing what he really wants to do. So he's losing control. If a person realizes that, if he really internalizes that, then it's at least half the game is over. Like half the job is over. That he won't get angry because he won't do something that doesn't make sense. I'm not saying that that's the people last time they disagreed that that's not enough. There are people it's true. There's still more. I'm not saying that so that's all to do, but it makes it much easier than a person who thinks that the anger really does something and really he has every right to do it, and in his anger he thinks of all the justifications, and then he has to control himself even though he's really so right. And every midah is like that. If it's going to be jealousy, if it's going to be arrogance, once you realize that the truth of all these issues, even physical lust, taiva, also, once a person puts it into its proper place and understands what it really is, you have much more control over it. So these are the studies that he's campaigning, that it's necessary to give time for. He's pointing out that when a person studies it well, he'll be able to benefit himself, and also he'll teach it to others and be able to benefit them also. This is something in contrast to what he said before, that when people don't know what the true Hasidus is, then nobody knows what it is. And people learn out bad things. That how does he say before? That he says, Hevishu es reach Hasidus beinei. I'm not pushing it here, but later on, that people who act in a way of piety that's not true piety, it turns people off. They see that this is what they think that the piety is. When people do the wrong kind of piety, so then it affects people in a bad way. When people figure out what the right kind of piety is, able to affect people also. First of all, by his own actions, people will be able to learn what it is to be a Oved Hashem, like a Kiddush Hashem. They'll see that's a true Oved Hashem, and he'll be able to teach them, and they'll be able to benefit from his wisdom also. He goes back to prove that there's a wisdom over here, and he wants to prove again that it's a wisdom. So he says, first he gave out the whole, enumerated all those things that everyone will agree that you have to work in order to get those things. That's not by itself. We don't have the answers yet. And now he brings a pasuk in Mishlei to show that it's a true wisdom. If you seek it like silver, and you search it out like treasures, then you're going to understand Yiras Hashem. It doesn't say Astav in philosophia, Astav in tchuna, Astav in refuah, Astav in dinim, Astav in halachos. It doesn't say that you're going to look for it like silver. You'll find philosophy or astronomy, medicine, dinim, halachot. But it says Astav in Yiras Hashem. That means that in order to understand Yiras Hashem, you have to seek for it like silver and treasures. That means that there's something there's a study, there's some work to do. It is a major work that's necessary in order to find this treasure. Here it says openly that in order to understand Yiras Hashem, you have to seek it like silver and search it out like treasures. Is it enough? Would it be enough? After all this, would it be enough that from what we have been taught from our fathers and what everybody is? It's obvious to every observant Jew in general. That's called Yiras Shamayim, without having any study, just what you're impressed with, just being in a Jewish community or in a Jewish congregation or in a Jewish family, that's enough to make us understand what these things are. Or people have another excuse, they don't have enough time. Can we find time for everything else we have to study, and for this there's no time? At least some of the time, even if he can't put all of his time into this study, because he has to study other things or other businesses, so why shouldn't he at least fix for himself sometimes, itim, lefachot, to study this subject? If he can't do all the time, he has to study other things also, but sometime. This is in response to a taina that somebody says in the Vikuach, we saw it, that if somebody says, it's true, you're right, it's a wisdom, it needs a lot of time. But I don't have time, because I'm studying other things. So he himself, the wise person himself, had said, there are many subjects of wisdom that I study, and each one is endless wisdom. Why should I do? I have to do all of them. So he says, the same thing. It's true, you have other wisdoms to do, but there's also other wisdom. So why are you giving that preference, complete preference, and this has nothing? At least give it equal time, or something. Give it a slot. The pasuk in Eov, if you look at the parak over there, I just want to point out that he does mean the drash of Chazal, but in the pasuk alone, the pasuk is very, very clear that there's some deep, deep, deep wisdom. Over there, the pasuk goes on. This is Eov 28, pasuk 28. It's the whole parak is 28 psukim, and it comes to the last pasuk. Ken Yiras Hashem Yichachma. If you look at the beginning, from pasuk 1 and on, it says like, where is wisdom? Where is understanding? And he goes out, looking for it all over. And he's not there, it's not here, everyone says, and there's all depths. It's very poetic, and something's doing over there in that parak. But at the end of the whole thing, he comes, Hein yiras Hashem hi chachma, v'sor meira bina. That fear of Hashem is wisdom. Just it would be kedai to look through the whole parak. Maybe if I could read it out, if that would take a few minutes, I could trouble you I'd get a translation with a Tanakh over there. So I'll just read it to English instead of the Hebrew and the English, just to be able to get an impression of what the pasuk. The background of the pasuk is very strong. Thank you. When you see how much has been put into this until you get to the last pasuk. Yeah. I'm just going to read the English, if it's okay. It's very poetic, and maybe you won't understand. I also am not understanding now. I'm just going to read whatever they wrote as a translation until we come to the last pasuk. For there is a source for silver, and a place where gold is refined. Iron is taken from the soil, and copper is smelted from stone. He sets a limit to the darkness, and he investigates the end of everything, the source of gloom and the shadow of death. A river bursts forth from its normal flow to where it is unknown to human feet. It rises and surges over people. There is a land where food once grew, but its place was transformed, resembling fire. It was a place whose stones were sapphires, and it had dust of gold, on a route not known to the buzzard, that the vulture's eye has not seen. Lions' whelps did not traverse it, and lions did not pass over it. But God stretched out his hand to the flint and overturned mountains from the root. He split open river channels in the rocks. His eyes saw every precious thing. From the waters of the deep he fashioned rivers. He brings secret things out into the light. But as for wisdom, where can it be found? Which is the place of understanding? All that was Akdama, all that was a preface. This has that. Iron comes from here, gold comes from there. Here comes rivers, and there is
everything has a source.
But the big question: wisdom, where can it be found? Which is the place of understanding? Then he goes again. Mankind does not know its worth. It cannot be found in the worth of wisdom and understanding. It cannot be found in the land of the living. The depth says, it is not in me. All this is talking about wisdom. Wisdom is not in me. And the sea says, it is not with me. Precious gold cannot be exchanged for it, and its price cannot be weighed in silver. It cannot be compared to the Ophir gold, or to the precious Shoham or sapphire. Gold and glass cannot approximate it, nor can its exchange be in golden articles. All this is about Chachma and Bina. Corals and crystal cannot be considered. The pursuit of wisdom is more precious than pearls. The pitted of Kush, kind of a stone, cannot be approximated. The purest gold cannot be compared to it. Wisdom, from where does it come? Which is the place of understanding? Again, the same question. It is hidden from the eyes of all living things, that is concealed from the bird of the heavens. Doom and death say, with our ears we have heard of its reputation. Only God understands its way, and he knows its place. For he, Hashem, peers to the ends of the world. He sees what is under the entire heavens, making a prescribed weight for the wind, apportioning water with a measure. When he makes a set allotment for the rain and a path for the clouds of thunder. Then he looked and recorded it, he prepared it and perfected it. And he said to man, Hashem said to man, behold, this is the pasuk we go up to, the fear of the Lord is wisdom, and refraining from evil is understanding. That's the background to this pasuk. You don't see the Mesillas Yesharim, you don't get the whole oomph. But there's a big question, where is Chachma, where is Bina? And then the end of the whole, after he says, it's so deep, and then it says, behold, fear of Hashem is wisdom, and restraining from evil is Bina. So he doesn't bring the pasuk in his whole background, but he says, Chazal say on this pasuk, Hein achas. The word hein in a different language means one. It's similar, the word hein, even in English, hein, one, it's very similar. So fear of Hashem is the wisdom, and it alone is a wisdom. The pasuk alone, without the Chazal, also sounds like that. That what is wisdom? Where is it? Where does it come from? Who has it? Where can it be found? Hashem says, fear of Hashem is wisdom. So since the pasuk calls it wisdom, that's what he wants to do over here. Since the pasuk calls it wisdom, it surely cannot be called a wisdom if it doesn't have study. Something you don't have to study is not called a wisdom. It's so simple, it's not a wisdom. Wisdom means that it's something that has details, intricacies, laws, patterns. The truth is that you do need a lot of study in order to know all of these things in truth, and not just by imagination. Dimyon, something that is not exact, and svara kozev is the false reasoning. It has to be something that's studied to get to the truth, to get to the real bottom of it. And surely, you need even wisdom in order to know what it is, and surely to acquire it and attain it, surely it takes wisdom. Someone who's going to contemplate is going to see that piety is not dependent on those things that foolish, pious consider. He doesn't call it chasidim. He's a person who makes himself a chassid, but he's called chasidim because then they're foolish. But really, it's dependent on true perfection and a great wisdom. And now we'll stop here. The rest of the preface is going to talk about the pasuk in Ekev that he's going to base the sefer on. That Hashem asks you of these 5 things, and he's going to elaborate a little bit on each one of them, what it is, the captions of Yira, Lechas B'Drachav, Ava, Shleimus Alev, and Shmiras Kol HaMitzvahs, and then he's going to bring a brisa of Pinchas Ben Yor, which he actually, the pasuk is built on that brisa, and then we'll start the actual climb of the ladder. Yashar Koach.